Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us. Right, I've just hit the record button. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us this morning, and a big thank you to Jack and Greg, because they should actually be at the Contact Center Expo this morning, and they've stepped away from the stand to join me on this presentation this morning. And we're going to be talking about speech analytics and quality management, and just the use of AI in contact centers and office environments nowadays it just blows my mind. It's moving so quickly, and the tools are so beneficial to certain businesses. I mean, we just talked about transcription this morning and how much time that's saving businesses. But the speech analytics and quality management that Greg and Jack are going to talk to us about is huge in providing that business information that's critical to give businesses that edge against competitors. And I think Greg's going to share a little bit of exciting news with us today as well about changes that have happened within Creovai and mergers that have taken place. So just a little bit about NSL. We are aggregators of communication services. We provide the standard office environments on cloud-based phone services all the way through to the contact center environment, omni-channels, CPaaS as well as CCaaS. And if anybody has any questions during this presentation, please don't hesitate. This is as interactive as it can be, and we look forward to your contributions on this. Greg, can I hand over to you? Tell us a little bit about Creovai and what's happening.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mark. If everyone can hear me okay. Yep, it's myself and my colleague Jack, who's a solutions consultant at what was Creovai. We'll get into a little bit of that in a second, but we're delighted to be here, and thank you for taking the time to join us today. So Creovai may or may not have heard of us. We are an AI vendor in the contact center space. Intelligence and guidance is sort of our bread and butter. So analytics, speech analytics, QA, coaching, but also how do we take all of that information from that insight and push it into agent guidance, sort of live in the moment. But Mark has alluded to the fact that we have now joined the Capacity family. So you may not have heard of Capacity. Capacity are an all-in-one service automation platform for contact centers. We are there to sort of bolster their intelligence and guidance functionality, to make it more robust. But it's very early days. I think we announced sort of 3 or 4 weeks ago. So we are still in the mix of understanding exactly, what the new world looks like. But we know specifically what our technology is there to do. So really exciting times. Plugging in our agent guidance and our conversation intelligence with their chatbots, for example, their IVR capability. That's already going ahead. So really, really exciting. But yes, we are at the Call and Contact Center Expo today. So if anyone's heading down later or tomorrow, come and say hi on the Capacity / Creovai stand, and we'll be there to say hello face to face. But then, today's session. So speech analytics and QA, QM, subject very close to Creovai's heart. Our platform, parts of it are specifically built to bring AI into those functions and enable them to drive higher performance. Essentially, speech analytics isn't necessarily new, but I'd say, I don't know the exact number now, but Contact Babel used to quote that only a third of contact centers out there are using this sort of technology. So today we're going to run through what can speech analytics bring to the party. We're looking at thousands of pre-built insight categories that can give you that instant interaction analysis and really start to uncover things about your customer interactions that you didn't know. Right. On the QA side, we all understand the challenges of QA within a contact center. One of the traditional functions, every contact center has some sort of quality function, whether that's side of desk for someone, from a quality monitoring perspective, or full function, but what we do know is it's still a largely manual process. It's frustrating for the agents, the lack of feedback sometimes, or the perceived bias they get from some of the scoring. And that is largely comes through from the fact that QA team is normally, taking a sample, looking at a sample of conversations, typically sort of 1, 3, 5% of those conversations. And so it's really difficult to gauge what's going on in a contact center as a whole, right? By just doing that sampling work. And of course, you know, the people on the QA side of things are frustrated as well, right? It's a very manual job. It's a very manual function, and, you know, don't necessarily get the action that they're, you know, looking for from the agents and their teams and their supervisors, right, off the back of the work that they do. So it's sort of a function that has always been there. It's very traditional. A lot of people still doing it manually, but still, and also people butt heads, right? And so what we're going to run through today is just how Creovai utilizes AI, but also just you know, our own core technology to bolster both the speech analytics and quality management world, right? How we can take those things, automate them, and, you know, open up a bigger playing field of insight that you can then use to improve decision making, you know, processes, specifically agent guidance, you know, which we have got a webinar in December on. But yeah, how you can take that insight and push it straight to the agent live in the moment is again core to what Creovai does. So yeah, so you know, super interactive session, as Mark says. So if you've got a question, please feel free to jump in. But I'm going to hand over to my colleague Jack, who's going to sort of take a dive into the platform and show you what it can do. But as I say, yeah, shout if you've got anything you want to ask. Thank you.
Jack, just before you start there, is anyone doing any kind of quality management or assessments of their teams at the moment? Because as Greg said, it's normally quite a small percentage of the volume of interactions that are processed, and it's generally quite a manual process. So what's in place at the moment?
Yeah, so I guess from our point of view, exactly that at the moment. So we are looking to try and understand how we can increase that sample size through, you know, automation of kind of compliance checks. Did they ask, have they done type of queries, so that we can focus the manual process around the more sort of complex tasks rather than the quick transactions.
Thank you, Darren. Antonio, were you going to share something there, or am I putting you on the spot?
No, it's just basically say, I mean, at the moment we are right at the beginning of all of this, just kind of trying to get a better understanding of what we can potentially get out of you know, the current AI technology and so on. Hence, you know, the conversations that we've been having with you about this.
Brilliant, thank you. Jack, over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Greg. And yeah, thanks everyone for being here. As I say, my name's Jack. I'm one of the solutions consultants over here at Creovai, and I'll jump into the platform today and give you definitely an overview as a more in the platform than I could possibly cover in, you know, for example, for the next 40 minutes. But please don't, as it's been said so far, don't hold back from asking any questions or going down a rabbit hole with a tool like this. Let's make it as interactive a session as possible, because conversation intelligence, the solution we're looking at today, and hopefully that you can see on your screens now, is at its core, you know, an incredibly customizable platform. And what you get out of it is almost limitless in terms of speech analytics, return on investment, value areas, and really sort of reporting, dashboarding, and business insight. And all of that can be extracted automatically from your data and turned into reports, dashboards, you know, ranging from daily sort of KPIs to full on year board reports, all from within a single user interface like this. So we're going to be walking through, I say, some demo data today, but at the heart of the tool, what it does is, as I say, grabs your conversations wherever they exist. So maybe those are audio recordings that you've currently got set up through your telephony platform. If you've got live chats that you're currently running either with, you know, your agents and customers, or if you're trialing things like AI bots, those digital interactions can be brought in as well for, of course, you know, speech analytics and automation of quality assurance. And we can even bring in things like, you know, emails if you're taking those through case management platforms. So the objective of this tool is really to give you that 100% coverage on every sort of customer facing interaction that you're having. If it's a recording, like a phone call example, we will take it, we will transcribe it, turn it into an actionable transcript, which you'll be able to drill down into, see, and we will mine that transcript for all of that key information that you care about, ranging from top line, call drivers, contact reasons, friction areas, to sentiment, individual areas of emotion that we detect about that call, as well as giving you the ability to automatically score every single call according to your own sort of QA rubric and criteria. I've started with the screen you're seeing here, really to give you a sort of overview of the platform and what's possible, and really because it will also underpin a lot of the other areas of analytics that we'll show today, especially QA, because being able to understand first and foremost why people are calling, what they're calling about, and how they're feeling about it, lets us get very, very granular with the data, and you'll see this as the demo goes on. So this is a dashboard that I've put together. All of the dashboards you will see are essentially constituted of reports. Reports are little KPIs like this. So daily contact volume, which I could move around if I want to, rearrange my dashboard, or even click into with a click there, and it's opened in a new tab to get to the underlying calls themselves. Those reports, you can construct them, and you can see over here the sort of filtering and graphing options that you've got. If I wanted that to be a simple value, a bar chart, or anything of the sort, I can quickly rearrange my visualization and, of course, drill down to the underlying data there as well. So 4,413 calls, and I can see the call there, which I could click and open if I wanted to. Going back to the dashboard, though, you can see across those 4,413 calls, the system's automatically extracted those top contact drivers for me. So we've got a sort of retail focused line of business dashboard here, when I've pulled out the top customer contact reasons ranging from order tracking through to new orders, all the way down to returns and exchanges. Of course, this is a massive leg up on traditional reporting with agent disposition codes, which we all know may not always be the most accurate, because we can have crossover, so we can have multiple contact drivers detected within a single call. And these kind of categorizations, our system has well over 1,000 of them pre-built, pre-learned, ready to go, and can be deployed, at the click of a fingers by tomorrow. And the system also lets you, of course, train and customize either our existing models or add new areas of analytics, new points of interest for you to be able to track and monitor. So the system is excellent at showing you the known and also brilliant at pulling out, that unknown. So if emergent things pop up, we'll be able to see them and react to them. As you can see, this is a daily driver. If I wanted to look at this on a much bigger time scale, I could use my filter panel to change that. But Darren, go ahead with the question.
Yeah, so just picking up on what you were saying there. So obviously looking at emerging trends. So all of a sudden I might see a new category that I've not seen before coming, sliding up the scale.
Yeah.
Can I then look back at that new category historically?
Yeah, absolutely, you can, Darren.
Okay.
So let's say how you create those sort of new categories, we'll talk around that in a moment. We've used AI to pick up a lot of these areas that are emergent. So, for example, we use AI to maybe see if something doesn't fit into our existing model. You use AI to categorize it and then track it. But once you've built that tracking category, you can rerun that, for example, on historic data. And that's a massive way that will work maybe with the customer on first implementation. We'll take historic data, upload it, and show them, where things are. And you can, of course, if you're rerunning categorization, or you want to try out, for example, a new quality assurance model and see how agents score on that, you can run it on your historic data to see when, for example, something emergent first appeared.
Darren, how far back would you normally compare? Is it year on year, or would you go further than that?
Yeah, probably year on year. To be honest, last 12 months. I'm just kind of thinking, like you say, if we start to see a trend in particular types of complaints, maybe, and we wanted to look at, actually, is there something that we've done historically that's sort of triggered that event as such? We might perhaps look at some new keywords or something, but I would want to know when that started rather than when it kind of hit my top 10 kind of thing.
Yeah. No, definitely, Darren. So, I mean, with these sort of categories, you can, of course, build it into dashboards like this, which are great for that, like what's happening view. But you can use searching just at the top, even for like really quick ad hoc reporting. Searching will show me all of the interactions that I've got in the platform. If I wanted to go back, the last 24 months, or if I wanted to specify even further, going back to something like 2020, I could come in, and I think that will give me something approximating like 1 million calls, maybe something like that. Oh no, if I probably put it the other way around, there you go, 2025. So yeah, we've got about 2 million calls, and I can go in and I could search for a keyword, or I could search for one of my existing categories, something. So I could go in and say, let's track a particular product, or let's track a particular behavior, or any of the categories I've got in the platform. So when was competitor one first mentioned, for example, and be able to track on all of those flags and go back as far as you need. And you could even turn that into a report right from here and save it and track it in the future.
Alex, we can get that. It might be for a remote sign off. The high enables Alex on that time.
If I scroll down, I'll give you an example of that, because we're looking at something like negative customer sentiment. So we're tracking sentiment on every single call for both agent and customer. Also tracking individual areas of emotion, which is a lot more transient. People might call up and have quite positive sentiment throughout the call, so we'll give it a positive score, but they definitely might have some areas of frustration, some confusion, some anger, or other sort of negative key things around particular issues that you could spot maybe at the start of a call. We track that negative sentiment, and we can, let's say, pin it into different categories for you. So concerns over price, confusion, frustration. What we want to do is give you the ability to take action on that. It's great to know that only 40% of my calls have frustration, but what do I do with that info? We want to be able to underpin it to a particular driver, so we can address that driver and potentially help the customer avoid that in the future. So drivers of frustration, we see frustration the most on calls where we also see people having to switch channel. So people are calling up and saying that I've tried to self-serve, you've tried to deflect me and it's not worked, and I've had to call into the contact center. Unsurprisingly, 100% of those calls have frustration. Reoccurring effort, not getting that first call resolution, or having to call back day after day or week after week to get that issue solved. Again, unsurprisingly, those have a lot of frustration on. And what we can do is start to drill into those areas. And Darren, coming back to things like emergent issues, maybe this is one we're already tracking, but maybe you've got issues with your application, issues with your website, Cloudflare going down the other day, for example, took a load of websites. We could get ahead of that sort of issue by seeing that kind of thing pop up. As you say, Darren, that's in our top 10 already, but that sort of thing can let us get ahead of those issues, maybe put out alerts to our agents how to address them. And you can track this sort of feedback at as granular a level as you like. Looking at something like customer sentiment along a particular product line, here just focusing on a fictional product or line of business that we're offering. I can come in and see that and take a look at how the agents are performing. Look at that from average handle time perspective. Again, looking at it from the sentiment of our customers. But we can start to underpin it against a particular, for example, issue. So our overall negative sentiment rate is about 22.6. So that gives us a benchmark. And then we can see what products maybe, or services, or any other kind of aspect that we want to track are way above that metric. So what's above our negative sentiment baseline? Smart home is almost at 40%. Prism Plus, these kind of products are way higher than our average sentiment rate. And we can start to see the underpinning reasons for them. So what's driving that negative sentiment? We have this nice quadrant chart. You'll probably see this a few times in the demo, but this gives us a really good driver on the x-axis, sort of the volume of calls that we're seeing that are about that particular issue. So you can see way out on the left here, features not working, updating my system and version. And then the y-axis shows you the overall impact it's having on that metric you're tracking, which in this case is negative sentiment. So these sort of top right quadrant areas These are the ones we really want to focus on. We're seeing those a lot of the time, and we're seeing that it has a real impact on customer sentiment. So if I wanted to maybe again focus this dashboard down even further, track that one product, we can do that with a smart home dashboard. So what are people saying about smart home? They're confused, they're frustrated, they've missed expectations, they're repeat contacts, all of those negative flags. And the issues we see that we know we're tracking, updating their system and version, features not working, and we can get straight to the core of that issue. So I'll open the floor for any questions at this point. I suppose for this kind of level of tracking and speech analytics, is this the sort of thing that you'd be hoping to get out of a platform like this?
Jack, I was just thinking about. Oh, go on, Darren. You carry on.
No, I was going to say, I think, you know, I think being able to see at that kind of granular level and, you know, be able to apply the context to kind of other products or other call types is really helpful, because, you know, I think we often get a lot of anecdotal feedback that says, oh, it's because of X, Y, and Z, but being able to reinforce that with some data is, you know, people will always listen to the data more, I think, won't they, than the anecdotal response.
I think one of the things we found in some exploratory meetings that we've carried out with Creovai, one of them in particular was an IT support team, and what they identified was there was certain elements of frustration around certain areas, but only with particular members of the team. And so that pointed out that additional training was needed in those particular areas. So it wasn't a product or a service, but actually it was additional support for that member of the team. The other bit that I was thinking about is we just had a little bit of snow over here at the moment, and I know that impacts some of our customers. They try and track the impact and frustration that changes in weather might have for their customers attending or going to their venues, and whether changes that they've made would actually improve that customer journey year on year, so or instance on instance. So that was just some thoughts I was going to share there.
Yeah, spot on. And it veers into quality assurance. I think as a lot of things will with a platform like this, but we have what we call CSAT AI. And this is proprietary and patented AI from Creovai by Capacity, which essentially is designed to replace the post-call survey. And with the same kind of vein of return on investment as something like, you know, automated quality assurance, this is giving you CSAT at a scale that just wasn't possible before, because it's designed to give a predictive customer satisfaction score for every single call that you send. So we can then get a massive sample of data that wouldn't be possible with traditional surveys, because I only fill them out, and I'm sure a lot of your customers only fill them out when they're really positive or really negative. So you get a much truer picture of that customer satisfaction. And this is where you start to really, I say, slice and dice the data with those different sort of angles of analytics. So again, great, we can see CSAT AI across the big picture. We can see it broadly as a pie chart, as we'd probably expect. Most of them are just neutral. You know, no one's overwhelmed or underwhelmed, but they're broadly happy with that service. We can see how that trends. But as Mark alluded to, we could start to see, is there maybe a particular driver, product, or agent or team that could be driving dissatisfaction or satisfaction at a higher rate than average? Looking at my teams of agents, you know, you can group your agents in the platform into those lines of business or teams, giving you that breakdown you need. Why is team one having such a negative impact compared to the rest of the business? And we can also see the deltas to compare to prior periods. So team one's dissatisfaction has climbed significantly compared to the rest of the other teams that we've got. Is there maybe a particular agent who are taking the same type of interaction, the same type of calls, leaving their customers dissatisfied a lot more than their peers? For example, Michael Mann, Jeremy McLean, Eugene, all of them have significantly higher dissatisfaction scores than our top performers. Maybe that's an area of coaching, an area of opportunity that we can delve into. Or again, tying it back to contact drivers or products, we can see what is driving customer dissatisfaction the most, where those friction points are. We can maybe alleviate with better coaching, better training, or something like real-time agent assist. using this product to feed that data to your agents in real time so they're better supported. But you'll see that next week. I say all of this data, all of these KPIs, you can click on them to drill down to those underlying interactions. And I can go in and open one up and I can see a summary, for example, there. I do have one just ready to go though, which I'll click into. So this is a phone call example. Whether it's a phone call, a digital interaction, or an email case, it will look very similar when you get down to this level of detail. So we'll be able to see at the top what kind of interaction it was, which team took it, which line of business, and the agent itself. And then we actually have a audio, in this case, which we can play back. So we've got the recording. We can obviously adhere to your retention policy, so we don't keep this data further than you allow us to. But if you need it, we've got that ability to play it back. And every moment that you care about, every moment that you're tracking, ranging from quality assurance beats, there we can see the agent did a greeting, introduced themselves and offered assistance, to reasons for contact, blocked card, declined transactions, effort markers like confusion, frustration, and all of those beats are tracked throughout that entire timeline. We also give you AI summarization on every single call, so I can get that snapshot of what happened, as well as chapter breakdown, also powered by AI, to show me each beat of the call, what happened and when. And at this level, I can see individual scores like the amount of effort, so effort scoring for customer interactions on a play-by-play basis, just to see how much effort the customer exuded to get the sort of resolution they were looking for. QA score for the agent, did they pass, did they fail, was there areas we could work on, as well as sentiment and that CSAT score for each call. And below the actual transcript itself, and this is starting to show you really how the magic happens, where the system is pulling out those areas like greeting, agent introducing themselves, and reasons for contact, all from your data. And this is where we start to really leverage AI in the platform. It's a step above, traditional speech analytics tools with something like keyword modeling. Yeah, keyword modeling is great, but it does take an enormous amount of work to keep up to date, and it takes an enormous amount of data that's very refined to make sure that we're picking up things correctly. We're not picking up false positives. If someone says that they're frustrated, great. But what if they say that, I was so frustrated because I couldn't get to work today because I was dropping the kids off at school and there was traffic. You need to be able to sort the wheat from the chaff, and something like our system lets us do that with these AI powered categories. Something like greeting right at the start there. We're tracking that and we're scoring the agent on it. So it's really important that we're scoring that correctly. Same thing for reasons for contact. We want to pull those out correctly. Our platform is going to automatically pull those out. So we can say, thank you for calling. That's one of our pre-baked ones. But if I want to train that and adhere it to my own QA scoring and say, I want to introduce the company name on every single call. Otherwise, I'm not going to pass my agent. I can simply train your category on this data. So let's say, thank you for calling the Heather Credit Union. I can simply highlight that whole phrase and add that phrase to a category. So if I want to track a new area like that, I can go in, add it to my existing category, or create a brand new category right from this view. Once I do it, for example, add it to my greeting category, I give the AI a thumbs up to say relevant, that's something I want to track, or not relevant if that's something I want to disclude. And for building out a brand new category, you only need about 3 examples of training data for the system to learn and start scoring. And because, like I say, this is not keyword modeling, you can get as specific with it if you want, but this is like natural language understanding. AI has a huge amount of versatility compared to, I say, that traditional way of modeling things. And then for QA, I can start to look at how that performs from scoring. So you build a QA scorecard in the platform. We've got an example here with sort of 5 top line metrics, connection through to resolution that we're tracking. Clicking into that, this may look nothing like the sort of scorecards you're using at the moment, but it will give you a flavor for how you're building it. You're creating these top line sections, and then you are looking for the behaviors within it. So the system shows you where those behaviors are found and where those behaviors, more importantly, aren't found, and it will score your agent appropriately with your scoring logic. And we can get very advanced with this scoring. You can do things like sequential categorization. And this is something that we did, especially with one of Mark's customers, CV Villas, making sure that not just were things said, but were things said in the correct order? Did the agent follow the correct sort of sequence of pitching to the customer for, better upselling? Did they actually mention all of the upselling variables that they could? And did they sell the sort of correct upsells to the customer based on what they were calling in on? You can be as complex or as simple as you need to be with that QA modeling to make sure that your agents are scoring correctly. And then, of course, you can start to report on this data at the level you need. So with QA reporting and dashboarding, I can come in and say, as a QA manager, open up a dashboard like this to get my immediate overview on how my team is performing. So my average QA score, out of the possible 100 points that I've got there, I can see we're averaging at about 85.6. I've set a goal against that as well. Were we to ever dip below that goal of 82 points, the system would let me know, but we're well above it. And also I can see compared to last period, we're up 10%, which is excellent. Across the entire quarter, we've been trending solidly upwards as well. I can see how my scores fall into overall ranges and track my agent sentiment. But where the system lets me really focus on areas of coaching, areas of opportunity for my agents, I can use something like this, scrolling down to my wallboard below. So what this does is let me break down that scorecard into those relevant sections that you saw and immediately start to spot areas where agents may need some work. So again, focusing on this from a soft skills perspective, we can see that Johnny, really good at the soft skills, but the verification, that DPA, that compliance section is worryingly the piece that they're really falling down on. So whether that is something that is just bad or it's something that could result in fines, you're able to track that and see that Johnny is not just poor, he's also getting worse. So down 14% from the last month. Carolyn is also pretty bad, but she's up 25% from last month. So Carolyn's bad and getting better. Johnny we need to intervene with straight away. And were we to feed this back on an individual agent by agent basis, I could turn that into, for example, a one-to-one dashboard. So building out this dashboard once, I can apply that then to instantly all of the agents that I need it to. So I could, for example, share this in a one-to-one setting. I could even use the built-in email functionality to push this out to my agents automatically. So they don't have to log into the tool. And in fact, we often recommend that they don't. Sometimes agents find it more of a distraction than an aid. So you can push this out to them on a daily or weekly basis so they can still self-learn and self-coach. But for example, Michelle, I can see she's had 132 interactions. I can see her scorecard. And I can also see the areas of opportunity. So maybe there's a particular call type that Michelle really struggles with. We can see over here, there's a lot of contact reasons that she really struggles with, like refunds or updating a plan. And we know that she struggles because we start to see negative behaviors creep in. Negative behaviors, low QA scores, low customer experience or CSAT scores, up to you where you want to track it and how you want to look at it. But what this gives you is that impact to see, right, the agent has a really negative impact on the customer here. They demonstrate a lot of poor behaviors, like indications that they don't know how to help or are powerless to help, indications that they're confused, or maybe even if they're transferring or redirecting those calls at a higher rate than average, maybe they leave a lot of silence time, a lot of dead air, or they talk over the customer or don't talk at all. You can take all of those aspects into account and start to see areas of agent opportunity. And if you are maybe looking at that, maybe there's another agent that you can refer to who does these types of calls really easily that you can use to celebrate the wins and help pull your bottom performers up and replicate that performance of your top agents as well. Cool. So a huge amount of granularity that you can go to with that quality assurance. And of course, we can even layer manual quality assurance as a sort of further layer on top of the automated level to really give you that complete 360-degree view of agent performance. Again, opening it up to the group. How does this look for quality assurance automation. It's one of our major sort of cost savings with a platform like this, and of course the benefits it pulls out go beyond QA. But is this the sort of area? Is this the kind of performance you'd be hoping to achieve with automated QA?
I think from my point of view, it's probably a little bit beyond what I was expecting to see in terms of some of the level of granularity and the detail that's there. I suppose my more one observation is it looks relatively easy to consume, and I like the idea of being able to kind of send it straight to the agent.
Fantastic.
I think one of the key things that we've found in working with customers with this particular platform is you can start with standard reports, standard analytics, and then as the business grows more confident and understands other needs, the platform itself can evolve with those additional needs and wants. So I think that evolution is important.
Yeah.
Matt, anything from yourself? Because I know you head up a team at the moment.
I'm glad that this didn't exist when I was in call centre at 20 years old. That's for sure. This is far beyond anything that we look at or do now, but so valuable and for me certainly this is kind of crucial stuff in the development of the business and individuals, and the big saving or big interest on mine is time saved. We don't have a standard set procedure on what I would call our standard analytics, which you help us with, Mark. It is very, very basic, and we do have a huge amount of different people across different disciplines calling in very much what's a grey area to understand how we're coping and driving this. It's fascinating to be fair, but I feel that I've created some additional workload for both you and I, Mark.
Sounds good. I look forward to it. I suppose Antonio, were you going to say something there?
I was going to say, do you have any case studies where identify what KPIs have improved most significantly after the implementation of the system?
I think that might be a Greg question on that one. Greg? Trying to find
hit the tiny little unmute button when there's bigger ones everywhere else, right? So yes, I'll pop a little we've got plenty of case studies. I'll pop a few. I'll pop the link to them into the chat now for you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
On the sales environment that Matt mentioned there, and I know that his team are very targeted on looking after their customers and securing those sales. What we found is it's amazing how many agents don't ask for the close, or if there's a little bit of a rebuttal there, they go, okay, that's fine, yep, rather than offering them something that could be an alternative destination, as an example for your team, Antonio. And I'm not saying that your team are doing this, but so, oh, is this particular destination available? No, actually, because the weather's horrendous there. But actually, if you went here, it's very similar, and you could have an amazing time. And I was there on a business education bit, and it was fantastic. And we did this. So giving that alternative when a particular opportunity is shut down, this is a great tool to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And then compliance. I mean, Neil, I know you've been very quiet there for a while, but you are an absolute guru in the insurance world, and I know there's a lot of compliance going on and regulations and customer vulnerabilities. This is a tool that could really help to support contact centers and agents who are dealing with that particular industry as well.
Absolutely. I think there's been two sort of reflections on this. One is the level of granularity that this can go to. So one of the challenges in the insurance sector is being able to identify the right calls to QA. So particularly identifying calls from potentially vulnerable customers, for example. they're notoriously difficult to find when you're hunting through it, certainly in a manual QA. And current sort of speech and data analytics are probably not delivering the results that are needed. It feels like this probably could. And then the second thing, it's linked to that really is evidencing. So one of the big shifts in the insurance world and financial services more generally with Consumer Duty is being able to evidence that you're delivering good outcomes to customers. So this certainly feels like a sort of a ground level, but also an aggregate level. So as you sort of roll up into your sort of company level sort of reporting, it feels like this is a real help to be able to evidence that they're delivering those good outcomes, or if not, identify where you're not and take action. That's the key thing. There should be a driver of action.
Sorry,
yeah. And I'd say, always rounding off the QA piece, we call that subjective evaluations, and it gives you that ability to drill down straight to those calls that you need to focus on the most and do what you need to do with them. So a lot of our customers will use a dashboard like this to alert them to those calls, whatever the criteria that are going to flag on, so they can immediately see what they need to take a look at across that time frame. So I've got my manager view again, but I can see there's 29 calls I need to go into this week. Now, if I click into that, what's that based on? Again, it's up to you with the filtering and reporting. So if I click on my filters, I can see it's looking at this date range, that team, and a low QA score. And it's a combination of those fields. So as you say, if we're tracking vulnerable customers, which in the FCA space, absolutely super important, whether it's customers threatening to do harm, or whether it's just a low QA score, or any combination of those factors, I can come in and say, right, there's 29 calls I need to do my due dil on. And as you say, you've then got that audit trail and that provability to say, here's what was done, here's what's next. And from agent buy-in as well, there's always some pushback, I think, implementing a system like this, but it's a fair platform, and once they see it and see how they're scored on it, it's quite black and white, and I think it gives a lot of faith from your own agents to how the platform works.
Yeah, I think you remove some of that subjectivity, don't you, that you might get from the manual process.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, there's no, if you're looking at 100% of the data and you're scoring it all the same way, it doesn't come down to, you picked my 5 worst calls that month. I swear I did perfect compliance and due dil on the rest of them. It's black and white. You can see a score going up, score going down, or whether your agents are nailing it or not.
No. In the situation, sorry, go on.
No, you carry on, Antonio.
I was going to say, in our particular case, you may not necessarily have an indication of how the sales may or may not turn out from an initial call. A booking could take 5, 6, 7 different conversations across different times of the week. It could take up to 2 weeks to actually complete. How does the system potentially analyze the interactions that have taken place at different times to then come up with a particular score?
Great question. So what we do is we will bring those in typically as separate interactions, but we will give you that indication of customer journey by actually tracking that on a unique field. So in this case, you can see we've got a unique customer ID. And again, it could be a combination of what we call metadata fields that allow us to track, whether it's the same customer, about the same contact reason across those multiple calls. But I can see previous interactions there. So giving you essentially the ability to look at that entire customer journey. We could look at, for example, that customer ID, drill down to previous interactions, see how they scored, see what was done. And if you want to get really advanced with it, you can apply different scoring, different tracking methods to different stages of that call. And that's what you did with, again, CV Villas. And there was also a lettings agency in the UK looking to buy, sell and rent houses, where again, very long customer journeys from the initial triage call down to, for example, successfully selling or buying a house through that company. And we use that kind of unique customer tracking to see how that entire journey took place.
So the unique customer tracking, is it down to the mobile phone, or is it emails, or how does it establish that it's kind of the same client talking 3 weeks later from a different mobile phone?
Yeah, exactly. So the really good point. So this kind of what we call interaction detail, this is metadata that comes alongside the original interaction. That can be maybe from the telephony. So the telephony system will tell us date time, standard stuff, which agent took the call, and maybe something like phone number. But as you say, if there's a different areas of metadata tracking, we can bring in additional metadata fields. And as long as there's some sort of unique key we can track to keep that alongside, whether it's something telephony provides or something you upload, like let's say CRM reference or anything like that, we can pull all of that in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, pleasure. And it's at the end of the day, it's your data. We don't keep it hostage. We're an open API platform, so you can use everything you're seeing here. And use our reporting, or we can automate this push to Salesforce, automate it push to your CRM. The webhooks are there. So for example, if that vulnerable customer flag comes up, we can push an alert into Salesforce or downstream so you can take action with your existing procedures to automate what happens next. Yeah.
What I was going to say about this particular tool, Jack, is we're finding more and more that it's a real benefit to the business to understand that business information because it assesses all of the interactions. We were talking with a customer recently, and their agents were only sending out surveys to customers that they wanted to complete the surveys, and so their TripAdvisor score was absolutely amazing. And the company then said, "Oh, well, actually, we're going to send the TripAdvisor score out to everybody." And surprisingly, it changed quite significantly, and not in a positive way. And so they actually shut it down and said, right, we need to have a rethink on this. So if you really want to understand where your business is and how to develop that business, this is essential. Whether it's the QMSA or whether it's the CSAT scoring, you are covering every interaction. And I think that is so important.
No. And I say we've really scratched the surface today. One of our real 3 key pillars for return on investment with a platform like this is reducing cost, improving conversion, and reducing churn. And again, taking a look at that using all of the systems and concepts we've looked at today, just taking into account something as simple as this, which you could put together, in a few minutes. Handling objections, or as Mark said, are they actually asking for the sale? You're able to see those behaviors and apply these kind of analytics to that set of calls and see, right, how often are we converting a call without offering a discount? If my agent is offering a discount, does that have an impact? Well, yeah, it actually quadruples my my conversion, which is a pretty easy thing to convince any sales manager of. But then we start to see who is doing that the most. Are there individual agents who are offering that rebuttal and discount more than others? And how does that affect their conversion rate? And we can take that even further and start to look at that on an entire, for example, sales team. With a conversion overview, I'm going to skip past those stats just for now and take a look at every sort of maybe objection that we see. We track every single objection on this sort of quadrant chart again. See our highest impact objections from our customers, price, too expensive, or call me back later, I'm busy. And we can start to see which agents are using rebuttals and which rebuttal is the most successful at having an impact on our conversion rate. Offering a discount, way up in the top right there, it's a really high impact driver. But maybe there's others like lock the price in, or others that might be more useful in a strategic scenario. What we do is even track that on a objection by rebuttal basis. So this table is essentially showing me for that type of objection, so if someone is saying not interested, which rebuttal from my agents is going to have the highest impact maybe on getting them to convert. Looking at your own data, your own conversion score, if someone does say they're not interested or shopping around, actually, if the agent says not a discount, but they say, hey, it's free to cancel or change, or I can lock the price in now, that'll have almost an 80% tracking metric on your conversion. And you can look at that from any rebuttal, any objection, any behavior, even down to things like, as we say, talk time, silence time, active dialogue. And are your agents just doing the basics? Are they asking for that sale? Are they mentioning the add-ons? Are they doing everything that they should be on a call? Right. Very conscious there's 5 minutes left, and I've thrown a lot at you, and I really appreciate you guys' time today and really good questions and feedback. I'll open the floor here just to any last any last questions. All right.
Jack,
Thank
what
you
about
again.
how do you get the data from whatever platform? Because I mean, I appreciate various people that are attending today are using different platforms. How do they get that data into Creovai so that it can be assessed? Because
No, really good point. And I say we're a technology partner, right? We've worked with almost every telephony out there, so we've had to make the system easy and agnostic to get data into. So if it's one of the big players out there and you've got open APIs that can essentially push call recordings or chats or digital interactions to us, great, fire it up and the system's able to ingest them. If not, then you push it to some sort of middle layer, like an S3 bucket or an SFTP, either that Creovai host or you control, and then we will go and grab that data from that middle layer and pull it in. And that can be on any kind of basis or scale that you like. So if that's something that happens in near time, second that phone call is done and pushes it over to us, that's something we can accommodate. If that's something you want to do on a batch weekly upload, and if that's something you only want to do for 50% of one team and 100% of another, you've got all of that ability to go in and pull that data as you see fit.
Thank you, Jack. I'm just going to share my screen very quickly. And so let me know if you can see that. So this is the NSL webpage. If you come through to knowledge, come down to webinars, you can see today's webinar is listed here. So that's ourselves. And as I said, next month on the 17th of December, we will be doing another demonstration with Jack and Greg around the Agent Assist product, and any previous webinars that we've done, whether and different topics. So PCI compliance here, workforce management there. Please feel free to go to our website and have a look at those recordings. And the other page is our YouTube page. So there are a lot of user guides on here. And again, the copies of the webinars are there as well. So please feel free to use those tools. Copies of this particular recording will be sent out to everyone who has attended and others who have not been able to make it as well. So you will have a copy of this. I'd like to thank Jack and Greg again for their time today, and for all of our attendees. Thank you for your contribution. It really makes the webinar a lot more detailed and some more meat to the bone, if I can put it that way. So thank you. Have a fantastic day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Bye-bye.